What if I told you that every woman in this room just outsmarted the so-called experts and nobody noticed? The words hung in the air, sharp and electric, as hundreds of eyes darted between disbelief and outrage. Cameras flashed, phones recorded, and a tense silence spread across the auditorium. On stage, the so-called expert, a man with a smug smile and a voice dripping with condescension, waved away the evidence like it was nothing. "Surely you don't expect us to take this seriously," he scoffed, glancing at the women seated across the hall. The audience murmured. Some gasped. Some shook their heads in anger. How could someone so blind to obvious intelligence claim superiority? Social media had already exploded. Clips of the moment were trending before the debate even ended. Hashtags forming overnight like wildfire. But in the front row, a woman adjusted her glasses, calm, composed, and unshaken. There was no fury, no panic, just a quiet confidence that something monumental was about to unfold. Every eye in the room could feel it. The world was about to witness a reckoning. The skeptic's arrogance was about to collide with brilliance in a way no one would ever forget. And yet, no one could predict the full scale of what was coming next. For decades, intelligence in women has been quietly dismissed, underestimated, and often ignored. In classrooms, young girls solved complex equations only to have their answers overlooked, credited instead to their male peers. In boardrooms, women presented innovative strategies that were met with polite nods but never real authority. On public stages, during debates that could shape opinion and policy, their ideas were questioned more harshly, their confidence framed as arrogance, their knowledge minimized as luck or fluke. Society had built invisible walls around the recognition of women's intellect, and those walls were reinforced by smug skeptics who believed intelligence had a gender. Our hero women, though, navigated these barriers with resilience. A young scientist whose groundbreaking research was initially dismissed by her professors quietly published findings that revolutionized her field. A political analyst, underestimated by her colleagues for daring to challenge dominant narratives, dismantled myths with calm precision that left even seasoned commentators speechless. A high school student, mocked for asking the wrong questions, ended up sparking a nationwide discussion that forced adults to rethink what they considered common sense. Each story, though different in scale, shared one truth: brilliance had always existed. It was the world that had been blind. The stakes are enormous. This is not just a question of recognition. It is a battle for dignity, fairness, and the chance for talent to shine regardless of gender. Every dismissive comment, every patronizing smirk, every viral clip of a woman being underestimated chips away at societal equity. But when these women rise, when they assert their intellect, the ripple effect is transformative, and that is why what happens next matters more than anyone could imagine. The skeptic on stage thinks he controls the narrative, that his arrogance shields him from being proven wrong. But the truth is relentless, and brilliance cannot be silenced. What unfolds next will leave the skeptic speechless, shattering assumptions, and forcing the world to pay attention. The quiet power of intellect, when finally unleashed, has a force no arrogance can withstand. He was the kind of man who thrived on certainty, the kind who measured intelligence not by insight or achievement, but by conformity to his narrow worldview. On television panels, he smiled knowingly as women presented data that contradicted his beliefs, dismissing it with a casual wave of the hand. At conferences, he positioned himself at the center of every discussion, confident that his voice alone could define the narrative. To him, brilliance was predictable, linear, and most importantly, male. Anything else was novelty or noise, a distraction from the truth as he saw it. In private circles, colleagues whispered about his repeated misjudgments, but he wore arrogance like armor. At a major economic summit 5 years ago, a young female economist proposed a model that challenged the prevailing assumptions of the market. He laughed openly during her presentation, calling it cute but unrealistic. Months later, her model had not only predicted a market shift, but had outperformed every forecasted projection, earning international acclaim. And yet he shrugged it off in interviews, insisting that luck had played a role and that he had simply not noticed all the details. Confidence, he believed, was thicker than evidence. This pattern repeated itself. A tech startup led by women introduced an algorithm that disrupted industry giants, And he wrote them off in op-eds as overhyped amateurs. Within the year, their work was being licensed globally, hailed as revolutionary. He acknowledged it briefly but framed it as an exception, a rare fluke that proved nothing about women's abilities. Even those closest to him noticed cracks in his reasoning, but he remained impervious, convinced that his authority and charm could outweigh any factual challenge. His arrogance was magnetic to some, dangerous to others. Social media amplified his opinions, giving him a platform to propagate biases subtly yet persistently. When a viral debate clip emerged in which he questioned a female scholar's credentials on live television, viewers were outraged, but he doubled down. "I respect women," he wrote online, "but facts are facts. This isn't personal." His fans cheered. His critics seethed. The dichotomy of perception only strengthened his conviction that he was untouchable, that intelligence itself bowed to his certainty. Yet beneath the bravado were faint, almost imperceptible signs of vulnerability, a hesitation before a particularly sharp question, a flash of discomfort. When a woman expertly refuted a complex argument in real time, these were small, overlooked moments, the whispers of an impending reckoning he refused to acknowledge. History, as it had before, was quietly setting the stage for him to be proven wrong once again, but this time in a way he could not control or spin. He believed the stage was his arena, that every challenge could be neutralized with wit or ridicule. He had underestimated brilliance countless times, and yet that arrogance made him blind. For every flaw in his reasoning, there existed a hero waiting to expose it, not with fury or aggression, but with calm, undeniable intelligence. The audience might not yet realize it, but the collision was imminent. The doubt he wielded as a weapon against women would soon become the very trap that ensnared him. And when the moment came, there would be no smiling off the consequences, no waving away the truth, no hiding behind charm. She grew up in a neighborhood where the world told her to stay small, to follow paths already paved, to avoid questioning the rules that seemed set in stone. From a young age, she defied that expectation. In school, she devoured books, solved problems others dismissed as too complex, and asked questions that made teachers pause. While others sought approval, she sought understanding, and with each discovery she built a quiet confidence that would one day become unshakable. Another rose from the challenges of an immigrant household, balancing multiple jobs while pursuing an education that promised doors the world had tried to keep closed. Every late night spent studying, every overlooked contribution in group projects, every time her ideas were ignored or credited to someone else, only sharpened her resolve. Intelligence, she realized, was not a gift bestowed by circumstance. It was forged in persistence, in curiosity, and in the refusal to accept limitations imposed by others. Across the country, a young scientist in a small lab was quietly rewriting the rules of her field. Her work challenged assumptions long held by experts who had dismissed her ideas as impractical. When her findings began to gain recognition, she faced resistance not for lack of merit, but because her voice did not fit the expected mold. Yet she remained composed, letting results speak louder than rhetoric, building a track record that could not be denied. Each of these women embodies a different facet of brilliance, resilience, ingenuity, and unflappable composure. They have learned to thrive under scrutiny, to navigate skepticism without losing momentum, and to convert every challenge into a stepping stone. These experiences are more than personal victories. They are the foundation of their unstoppable presence. Now facing a public stage where doubt is weaponized and arrogance is applauded, they carry more than just knowledge. They carry the weight of every dismissal, every overlooked idea, every time intelligence was underestimated, simply because it came from a woman. These moments have prepared them for this confrontation, equipping them with calm precision, strategic insight, and a quiet power that the world is only beginning to recognize. The skeptic before them believes he holds the upper hand, but the truth is clear. Brilliance cannot be contained, and the hero is ready to prove it. The spotlight hit the stage, and the room seemed to hold its breath. The villain leaned forward, a smug grin playing across his face as if the outcome had already been decided. "So tell me," he began, voice dripping with condescension, "how do you expect to lead a discussion on this topic when your experience is limited?" His gaze swept across the audience, daring anyone to challenge him. Laughter rippled from the corner of the room, nervous, uneasy, some complicit, while whispers of skepticism spread like wildfire online. Clips were already being shared. Women can think. Smarter than you. Trending before the debate even began. The hero women remained poised, their expressions calm, their hands folded, their eyes sharp. Every insult, every sarcastic comment they absorbed like data points, calculating, observing, waiting. The villain pressed on, each jab more brazen than the last. "I mean, it's fascinating to hear your theory," he sneered. "But fascinating isn't always accurate. Surely you see that." Murmurs in the audience grew louder, some nodding at his arrogance, some frowning at his audacity. Social media exploded with commentary. Viewers dissected every word, some defending, some ridiculing. The digital echo amplified the tension, creating a storm that felt bigger than the room itself. He scoffed at studies presented, waved away statistics, and framed anecdotal evidence as proof of broader incompetence. "It's cute when people try to overcomplicate simple truths," he said, smirking. "Really, it's almost endearing." A few attendees shifted uncomfortably, sensing the imbalance, yet the villain's confidence seemed untouchable. Every eye on stage felt the weight of his certainty, a certainty he believed was unassailable. But then one question changed everything, and the room went silent. He asked it to think it would corner the hero. A loaded, sharp-edged inquiry designed to expose ignorance. Cameras panned, smartphones captured the pause, and the world seemed to stop. The air thickened with anticipation. Social media held its breath in real time. No one knew what would come next, but everyone sensed the tide was about to turn. In that silence, the contrast was undeniable. The villain's overconfidence hung like a banner above him, brittle and conspicuous. The hero women, calm and precise, held a quiet authority that didn't need applause or validation. Every calculation, every observation had led to this moment. The room waited, the audience leaned forward, and the skeptic, for the first time, glimpsed the possibility that he might have underestimated the brilliance before him. With a deliberate pause, the lead hero leaned forward, her voice steady, commanding attention without a trace of anger. "Let's speak plainly," she said, eyes locking with the skeptic. "Intelligence is not measured by arrogance. It is measured by curiosity, evidence, and the courage to challenge assumptions." The room stilled. Even the villain's allies shifted uneasily in their seats. Every word was a scalpel, precise and undeniable. She began dismantling his claims with examples he could not ignore. 5 years ago, the very model you dismissed as cute but unrealistic predicted a market shift with stunning accuracy, she continued. The work was led by a team of women whose insights you refused to acknowledge. They succeeded not through luck, but through rigorous analysis, the kind of intelligence you seem to mistake for exceptionality. The audience murmured. Phones recorded every syllable, and hashtags surged across social media, as if the world itself was leaning in. Another hero joined in seamlessly, her voice calm, unwavering. "When we are underestimated, we do not panic. We innovate, we adapt, and when we speak, we bring evidence that cannot be denied." She outlined groundbreaking achievements, quietly brilliant strategies, innovations that had transformed industries, and insights that had reshaped policies. Each point struck the villain like a mirror, reflecting a truth he had long refused to see. The villain's composure began to falter. A nervous glance here, a twitch of the hand there, small cracks widening under the weight of undeniable fact. His rebuttals grew forced, defensive, even frantic at times, as the calm precision of the hero women made every counter-argument feel petty. The crowd shifted, leaning in, their energy shifting from curiosity to awe. Social media erupted. Commentators dissected every rebuttal. Influencers celebrated every victory. And the digital world amplified what was happening in real time. And then, the final blow, a single question posed by the lead hero, subtle, strategic, and devastating in its simplicity. "If intelligence is so easily dismissed when it comes from women," she asked, "what does that say about the world you claim to understand so well?" A hush fell over the room. Even the villain's staunchest supporters were silent, confronted by logic, evidence, and a dignity that could not be shaken. With every word, the skeptic's arrogance crumbled, until even their allies couldn't defend them. The villain's smug smile vanished, replaced by a flicker of recognition. He had been outmaneuvered not with rage but with calm, strategic brilliance. The room erupted in applause, not just for the words but for the quiet power behind them. The hero women had taken a stage designed to belittle them and transformed it into a showcase of intellect, composure and undeniable authority. And yet, even as the crowd cheered and social media ignited with praise, one truth lingered in the air. The world had been forced to confront its own assumptions, and nothing would ever be quite the same again. The skeptic had been toppled, not by spectacle, but by a force far more formidable: unyielding intelligence, quiet confidence, and the courage to stand unshaken against prejudice. Within minutes, clips of the debate were flooding timelines across every platform. Hashtags like "Doro every woman is smart," "A brilliance unseen," and "Quiet power" trended globally. Memes capturing the villain's faltering composure went viral, but it wasn't mockery that dominated. It was admiration for the hero women who had dismantled arrogance with calm precision. Social media became a chorus of validation, a real-time witness to a triumph long overdue. Commentators dissected the exchange on live streams and podcasts. Experts praised the hero women's logic and composure, highlighting their evidence-based arguments and strategic approach. Celebrities tweeted their support, sharing personal stories of underestimation and triumph. Influencers amplified these messages, encouraging their audiences to challenge biases in everyday life. Each post, each share, each comment added momentum to a wave that had begun in a single auditorium but now stretched across the globe. The ripple effect was immediate. Schools began discussions about recognizing and nurturing intelligence in young girls. Workplaces re-examined leadership and promotion practices, questioning why brilliance had so often been overlooked. Even casual observers, who had tuned in for entertainment or curiosity, were forced to confront long-held assumptions about gender and intellect. The debate was no longer just a stage event. It had become a cultural touchstone. And yet, amid the celebration, a deeper realization emerged. This was not merely a victory for a handful of women on stage. It was proof that intelligence, when wielded with dignity and courage, cannot be silenced. The hero women's triumph inspired others to speak up, to challenge stereotypes and to claim recognition for achievements that had too often been ignored. The world had watched arrogance crumble, and in that moment, empowerment spread like wildfire. As the clips continued to circulate and discussions intensified, one fact became undeniable: minds were changing. What had started as a single calm counterattack on stage had become a movement, reminding everyone, especially young women everywhere, that brilliance exists everywhere, and it cannot be denied. The skeptics, the dismissive voices, and the outdated assumptions had all been challenged, and the momentum would not fade. The world had glimpsed a new truth, and it demanded recognition. The stage was empty now, but the impact lingered far beyond its walls. The debate, the viral clips, the social media storm, they were all proof of a simple, undeniable truth. Intelligence knows no gender. Every woman, regardless of background, circumstance, or stereotype, carries the potential to innovate, lead, and inspire. What had unfolded was more than a victory on stage. It was a triumph for dignity, fairness, and the recognition of talent that had too often been overlooked. In that moment, it became clear that society's assumptions could be challenged and overturned. Arrogance, bias, and dismissive attitudes are powerful, but they crumble under the weight of calm, reasoned brilliance. The hero women had not shouted. They had not demanded. They had demonstrated, reminded, and illuminated a truth that everyone in the room and everyone watching could see for themselves. Recognition was not given, it was earned, and it had been impossible to ignore. This lesson extends far beyond any single debate. It calls on us all to question the narratives we inherit, to confront biases both subtle and overt, and to celebrate achievements that may have gone unnoticed for too long. Every dismissal can become a challenge, every doubt an opportunity, and every voice, when wielded with courage and intellect, can shift the course of perception. As the digital world buzzed with admiration and the audience reflected on what they had witnessed, one feeling remained unmistakable: hope. Hope that every girl, every young woman, and every observer understands that intelligence is universal, unbound, and unstoppable. The triumph was not just theirs, It belonged to all who believe in fairness, courage, and the power of acknowledging brilliance wherever it exists. Every woman is very smart. That isn't just a statement. It's a truth proven again and again in classrooms, boardrooms, and on stages where brilliance meets doubt. Today we witnessed intelligence unshaken by arrogance, dignity rising above dismissal, and courage redefining what it means to be seen. Share this story, celebrate the achievements of women around you, and challenge the biases that still linger. Join the movement that refuses to underestimate, ignore, or silence brilliance. Recognize talent, amplify voices, and ensure that every woman's intelligence is acknowledged, celebrated, and empowered. The world is watching. Be part of the change.